I took one political philosophy class many, many years ago in undergraduate, so I am probably very wrong here on some level, but I recall, I don't know if it was Hobbes, I think it was Hobbes maybe, who justified, at least on some level, the state being able to act outside of the law, and in this case, perhaps violate human rights because people or its enemies are also violating outside of the law. And in order to compete with them, some laws need to be violated. And I did find this compelling in the sense that we can come up with a thought experiment where you have a criminal who knows the location of the nuclear bomb in New York City and we can only get it by torturing him. Is it worth violating human rights to save millions and millions of lives? And I'm wondering if you just view human rights as being entirely inviolable.
Well, let me first use your torture example and then also talk about war. Um, the torture example you give is actually what proponents of torture, they always cite that example. It's the ticking time bomb example. And I describe in the book how that rationale was used by Israel in an earlier era, um, to necessitate, torturing somebody because there is this ticking time bomb that's about to go off. And that was the original rationale. But what quickly happens is it becomes a very expansive metaphor, because if you're going to torture somebody for the time bomb that's ticking, why can't you torture them for a bomb that's going to be placed tomorrow? Or why can't you torture them because they could, locate somebody who might know where the bomb is going to be placed next month? I mean, aren't all these people's lives worth saving? And what you quickly find out, what Israel found out, was that the ban on torture, which is an absolute prohibition that every government has signed onto, it's jettisoned, it's thrown out the window, because this, supposedly narrow exception swallows the entire rule. And so there is something called the Landau Commission, which actually said this has got to stop. This rationale doesn't work. Now, Israel has, fallen back on torture now. That's among the things that it's doing in fighting the war in Gaza. But there is a universal view that the ban on torture is absolute. And you can't, come up with these law school hypotheticals to justify exceptions to it. Now, the other, factor worth considering here is that, even in time of war, that is to say, even when somebody is attacking your country, bombing it, invading it, whatever, there are clear rules about what cannot be done. Those are the Geneva Conventions and the protocols, is known as international humanitarian law. And every single government has signed on to these. And the point is to say that, yes, you may be at war. This may be, the worst kind of national security threat you're ever going to face, but there's certain things you can't do. You can't deliberately attack civilians. You can't indiscriminately bomb civilian neighborhoods. You can't starve civilians. Basic rules, pretty intuitive, but governments all subscribe to those rules. Now, do they violate them? I mean, yes, Israel, which also subscribes to those rules, is flouting them left and right in Gaza. It is indiscriminately bombing neighborhoods. It's starving civilians. It is shooting people who are coming up to get food. So, these are severe violations, but nobody's questioning the norms. I mean, you don't even see Israel saying it's okay to shoot people who are, seeking food. They always try to justify it with some, vague excuse. So I think it's important to recognize that, this Hobbesian view that you can do anything you want because the world's an ugly place out there is not the moral standard governing the world today, as illustrated by these treaties like the Geneva Conventions that every government has accepted. Every military has signed on to them. And these are not rules that, human rights groups have concocted. These are rules written by the major militaries of the world to govern themselves in time of war.